The waitress begged the Necromancer King to hide her from her stalker. He agreed, but she must never leave his tomb. That was the deal Maya made at midnight, sobbing on her knees before a crypt door that shouldn't have opened. She didn't know that the lonely king watching from the shadows would teach her that death wasn't the end of living, and she would teach him that living wasn't the absence of death. The diner's neon sign flickered red against the rain as Maya's hands trembled around the coffee pot. She'd felt his eyes on her, all shift. Again. Marcus sat in the corner booth, his third refill growing cold, his smile too wide, his stare too steady. It had been 3 weeks since she'd made the mistake of being kind, of laughing at his joke, of not seeing the obsession forming behind his pleasant face until it was too late. Her manager wouldn't listen. The police said they couldn't help until he did something, but Maya had seen the progression. The gifts left on her car, the texts from numbers she'd blocked. The photos slipped under her apartment door, showing her bedroom window from outside. Tonight was different. Tonight, Marcus waited in the parking lot after her shift, leaning against her car with that smile that no longer reached his eyes. "Maya," he said quietly, "we need to talk about us." "There is no us," she replied, keys clutched between her fingers. "Marcus, please, you need to leave me alone." His expression shifted. Something dark and possessive crossed his face. "You don't mean that. You smiled at me. You wore that blue dress I like. You're just confused. I can help you understand." Maya ran. She didn't think, didn't plan. She just ran into the rain, into the night, her sneakers slapping wet pavement as his footsteps pounded behind her. Her lungs burned, her vision blurred with rain and tears. The city streets twisted around her, unfamiliar in her panic. She'd taken too many turns, gone too far from the main roads. Now she was lost in the old district, where condemned buildings leaned against each other like drunken giants, and streetlights had long since burned out. "Maya," his voice echoed between the empty structures. "You can't run forever. I just want to talk." But his footsteps were getting closer. Maya stumbled into an alley that dead-ended at an iron fence. Beyond it, old tombstones jutted from overgrown grass. The cemetery. The one everyone said to avoid after dark. The one with stories about things that walked between the graves. She didn't care about stories. She cared about the gap in the fence, just wide enough to squeeze through. Thorns tore her uniform. The fence scraped her ribs. But she was through, running between graves that tilted at odd angles, some so old the names had worn away to smooth stone. Behind her, Marcus crashed through the gap. "Maya, stop being dramatic. Come back, and we'll talk like adults." Her foot caught on a root. She went down hard, palms scraping across gravel and dead grass. Pain shot up her wrists. When she looked up, Marcus stood 5 feet away, silhouetted against the distant streetlights. His breathing was heavy. His eyes reflected light like an animal's. "We're going to go back to your apartment," he said calmly. "You're going to invite me in. We're going to start over, and this time you won't be confused about what we are." Maya scrambled backward. Her shoulders hit stone. Cold, smooth stone that shouldn't have been there. She was backed against a mausoleum, its marble surface ancient and carved with symbols that seemed to move in the corner of her vision. The door was sealed with chains and a lock that had rusted through decades ago. "Please," she whispered, "not to Marcus. To anyone. Anything. I just need somewhere safe, somewhere he can't follow. Help me. Please." The chains fell away. They simply slid off the door handles like water, hitting the ground with a sound like wind chimes. The door, which had been sealed shut for 70 years according to the date carved above it, swung inward on silent hinges. Darkness breathed out, cool and oddly welcoming. Maya didn't hesitate. She threw herself through the doorway into the black. The door slammed shut behind her. She heard Marcus crash into it from outside, heard him pound against the marble, heard his voice rise to a shout. "Open this. Open this right now, Maya. Let me in." But the door didn't budge. His voice grew distant, as if the tomb was deeper than it should be, as if she'd run much farther than just through a doorway. Maya's eyes adjusted slowly. The darkness wasn't complete. A soft blue light emanated from deeper in the crypt, cold and gentle like moonlight on snow. The air smelled of old paper and dried flowers, not the decay she'd expected. She was in a corridor, lined with niches, each holding urns or small coffins. The stone beneath her feet was smooth, worn by footsteps, though no one should have walked here in generations. The blue light grew brighter as she moved toward it, drawn by some instinct she couldn't name. The corridor opened into a chamber, a round room with a domed ceiling, painted with constellations that seemed to move. Books lined the walls, thousands of them, stacked on shelves that reached up into shadow. In the center of the room sat a throne carved from a single piece of black stone, and on the throne sat a man. He was younger than she expected. Maybe 30, though his eyes looked ancient. His hair was dark, falling across a pale face with sharp features that might have been handsome if they held any warmth. He wore black clothing that looked like it belonged to another century, embroidered with silver thread in patterns that hurt to look at directly. His hands rested on the throne's arms, long fingers adorned with rings set with stones that gleamed like captured stars. Those eyes, gray as winter storms, fixed on Maya with an intensity that should have terrified her. But she was already terrified of what waited outside. This was a different kind of fear. The kind that came with standing before something powerful enough to help or destroy you with equal ease. "You called," he said. His voice was quiet, but it filled the chamber like the toll of a distant bell. "You begged for sanctuary. Do you understand what you're asking?" Maya's voice came out smaller than she intended. "Someone's trying to hurt me. I just need to hide. Just for a little while. Until he gives up. Until I can figure out what to do." The man on the throne leaned forward slightly. The blue light caught his face, and Maya saw the exhaustion there, the loneliness worn into his features, like water wearing stone. "I am Damien Ashcroft," he said. "King of the restless dead, master of this domain between life and death. I have not had a living soul voluntarily enter my sanctuary in 70 years. The last person who came seeking my help left 3 bones lighter than they arrived." Maya swallowed. "Are you going to hurt me?" Damien's expression shifted, something almost like surprise. "No," he said quietly. "I'm going to offer you a deal. You may stay here, safe from any living person who wishes you harm. No one can enter this place without my permission. Nothing can touch you within these walls." But he stood, unfolding to his full height. He was tall, impossibly tall, and as he stepped down from the throne, shadows seemed to cling to him like living things. "If you accept my sanctuary, you can never leave. Not for a day, not for an hour. Not to see the sun or feel rain or walk among the living. This tomb becomes your world. I become your only company. That is the price of absolute safety." Maya thought about Marcus's eyes, about the photos under her door, about the way he'd said we need to talk about us, as if her fear was just confusion to be corrected. She thought about how the police had smiled sympathetically and said they couldn't help, about how her manager had told her to stop being dramatic, about how alone she'd been in a world full of people. "How do I know you won't hurt me?" she asked. "You don't," Damien replied honestly. "You have only my word, and I am the king of death. I command corpses and speak with spirits. I am everything your living world teaches you to fear. But I am also offering you the one thing no one else would. A place where you are safe. Absolutely. Completely. Forever." Maya met his eyes. She saw loneliness there that matched her own. And something else. A desperate hope that he was trying very hard to hide. "I accept," she whispered. "Then welcome," Damien said. And for the first time, something almost like a smile touched his lips. "To the only place you'll ever be again." The first thing Maya learned about living in a tomb was that death kept better hours than life. Damien showed her to a room that shouldn't have existed. The crypt from outside was maybe 20 feet square, but inside, it unfolded like a flower. Corridors branched in directions that defied geometry. Stairs spiraled down into depths that couldn't fit beneath the cemetery. Rooms opened off the main chamber, each one frozen in a different era. The room Damien gave her had belonged to someone once, a daughter, maybe, or a wife. The bed was covered in dusty velvet. A wardrobe held dresses from the 1800s that smelled of lavender and thyme. A writing desk sat by a window that showed not the cemetery outside, but a view of a garden that existed only in memory, eternally blooming under a moon that never moved. "You'll be safe here," Damien said from the doorway. He didn't enter. Maya noticed he never crossed thresholds without permission, as if even in his own domain, he followed rules older than his power. "Is this where she slept?" Maya asked, running her fingers over the carved bedpost. "Your daughter?" Damien went very still. "How did you know I had a daughter?" Maya turned to face him. "The room," she said simply. "It's decorated for a young girl. The books on the shelf are children's stories. The drawings pinned to the wall, and there's a music box on the dresser with a name engraved on it. Eliza." Damien's expression didn't change, but something in the air shifted. The blue light dimmed slightly, and for a moment the temperature dropped enough that Maya could see her breath. "She was 7, he said quietly. "She died of fever in 1952. I became what I am trying to save her. By the time I mastered the magic, by the time I could command death itself, it was too late. She was too far gone. I could raise the recently dead, but not her. Never her." "I'm sorry," Maya whispered. "Don't be," Damien replied. "Sorrow is for the living. I gave that up long ago." But Maya heard the lie in his words. She'd worked enough late shifts at the diner to know what grief looked like when people thought no one was watching. Damien wore his grief like armor, cold and protective and absolutely suffocating. He left her then, pulling the door closed with careful precision. Maya sat on the edge of the bed that had belonged to a dead child and wondered what kind of deal she'd actually made. She fell asleep eventually, exhausted by fear and running and the surreal impossibility of her situation. When she woke, she didn't know if it was morning or night. The tomb existed outside normal time. The blue light never changed. The moon in the window never moved. She found Damien in his library. He sat in a high-backed chair, reading a book so old the pages crumbled at the edges. Around him, spirits drifted like smoke. Translucent figures in old-fashioned clothing, going about tasks that no longer mattered. A woman dusted shelves that held no dust. A man wound a clock that didn't run. A child played with blocks that made no sound when they stacked. "They're not really here," Damien said without looking up from his book. "Just echoes. Impressions left in the fabric of death. They don't know they're gone." Maya watched the child play. The little girl looked about 5, her dress from the Victorian era, her curls bouncing as she built and rebuilt the same tower over and over. "Can they see us?" "No," Damien replied. "They see what they saw when they were alive. The child sees her nursery. The woman sees her home. The man sees his workshop. They're trapped in the moment they died, reliving it forever. That's horrible," Maya breathed. Damien finally looked up. His gray eyes found hers. "That's death," he said simply. "For most people. An eternity of repetition, slowly fading until even the echo disappears, unless someone like me binds them to a purpose, gives them a new task. Then they can at least be useful. You make them work for you?" Maya's voice held more judgment than she intended. Damien stood, closing his book with care. "Yes," he said. "I bind them. I command them. I am a necromancer, Maya. I traffic in death. I raise corpses and bind spirits, and speak with those who should stay silent. This is what I am. This is what saved you from your stalker. Or would you prefer I'd left you outside?" Maya had no answer for that. Damien moved to a different shelf, running his fingers along the spines. "I'm not good with the living," he said quietly. "I haven't been for a very long time. If my honesty bothers you, tell me. I can try to be gentler. But I've forgotten how to pretend warmth I don't feel." Maya surprised herself by laughing. It came out slightly hysterical. "I'm sorry," she said. "It's just, you're more honest than anyone in my living life ever was. My manager pretended to care about safety while scheduling me alone for closing shifts. The police pretended concern while doing nothing. Marcus pretended to be nice until I didn't return his feelings. At least you tell me exactly what you are." Something in Damien's expression shifted. He looked at her as if really seeing her for the first time. "You're not afraid of me," he said. "It wasn't a question." "I'm terrified of you," Maya corrected. "But I'm more terrified of what's outside. And you haven't lied to me yet. That's something." Damien was quiet for a long moment. Then he crossed to a table covered in papers and odd instruments. "When I was alive, before I became this, I was a doctor, a scientist. I believed death was a disease to be cured. When Eliza died, I decided if medicine couldn't save her, magic would." He picked up a skull from the table, turning it in his hands. "It took me 10 years to learn necromancy. By then, I couldn't return to the living world. I'd changed too much. Learned too much. Touched too much death. So I made this place. A kingdom between, where the dead can rest and the dying can linger, where I can study and practice and pretend I'm still working toward saving her, even though I know it's impossible." "Why is it impossible?" Maya asked. Damien set the skull down carefully. "Because I tried. 1,000 times. I can raise fresh corpses, make them walk and talk. I can bind spirits to tasks. I can even preserve the recently dead in a state between, keeping their bodies from decay, their minds awake. But Eliza is gone. Truly gone. 70 years beyond my reach. To bring her back now would just be animation, a puppet wearing her face, not her, never her." Maya moved closer. She reached out, hesitated, then gently touched his arm. He flinched as if burned, but didn't pull away. "You're still trying, though," she said softly. "All these books, these experiments. You haven't given up." Damien looked down at her hand on his sleeve. "When was the last time someone touched you?" she asked. He didn't answer. The silence stretched between them, heavy with implications. Maya pulled her hand back. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have." "No," Damien said quickly. It was fine. I just—" He paused, seeming to struggle for words. 1953. The last time someone living touched me willingly. My colleague Thomas, before he realized what I'd become and fled. 73 years. 73 years? Maya's voice cracked. You've been here alone for 73 years? Not alone. Damien gestured at the drifting spirits. They don't count, Maya said flatly. They're echoes. You said so yourself. When was the last time you had a real conversation? Damien's jaw tightened. You're here 3 hours and already trying to fix me? I'm not a project, Maya. I'm not something you can repair. I'm not trying to fix you, Maya replied. I'm trying to understand the deal I made. You said I can never leave, that you're my only company. I need to know who I'm trapped with. Fair enough, Damien said. He gestured to the chairs. Sit. We should talk. They sat across from each other in the library, while spirits drifted past like smoke. Maya told him about the diner, about Marcus, about how small her life had become trying to stay safe, about how she'd felt invisible even surrounded by people. Damien listened with an intensity that was almost uncomfortable, as if he was memorizing every word. Then he told her about Eliza, about her laugh, about how she'd loved collecting beetles and drawing elaborate maps of imaginary countries, about reading to her every night, teaching her to question everything, to never accept easy answers, about holding her while fever burned her away, helpless despite all his medical training, about the moment he'd decided that if the universe wouldn't let him save his daughter, he'd break the universe. Maya realized she was crying. For a little girl she'd never met. For a father who'd loved so much he'd damned himself. For the 73 years of loneliness, echoing in this place between death and life. Damien noticed her tears. He stood abruptly, uncomfortable with her emotion. You should rest, he said. I'll show you the kitchens. You'll need to eat. The living require maintenance. Do you eat? Maya asked. Sometimes, Damien said. Habit more than necessity. I don't need food anymore, but I remember enjoying it. We could eat together, Maya offered, if you want. Damien looked at her strangely. Why would you want that? Because you've been alone for 73 years, Maya said quietly. And I've been alone in a room full of people. Maybe we can be alone together. It might be less lonely. Damien opened his mouth, closed it. For the first time since she'd met him, he looked uncertain, almost vulnerable. I don't know how to do that anymore, he admitted. Be with someone. I've forgotten. Then we'll figure it out together, Maya said. She stood, crossing to stand in front of him. We're stuck with each other anyway. Might as well make it bearable. Something in Damien's expression cracked, just slightly. Just enough that Maya glimpsed the man he'd been before death claimed him, before loneliness hardened him, before 73 years of nothing but echoes. All right, he said softly. We'll try. Living with death required its own rhythm. Maya discovered this over the following days, or what she assumed were days. Time moved strangely in the tomb. Sometimes she'd sleep for what felt like hours, and wake to find only minutes had passed. Other times, she'd read for what seemed like moments, and find that an entire night had vanished. Damien explained it was because they existed between. The tomb didn't follow living time or dead time. It followed its own rules, written in a language older than both. Maya adapted. She learned to navigate corridors that rearranged themselves when she wasn't looking. She grew accustomed to spirits drifting past, their translucent forms engaged in eternal routines. She discovered that the kitchen, impossibly, stayed stocked with fresh food that appeared each morning in the old-fashioned icebox, courtesy of Damien's magic drawing from some supply that existed outside normal reality. And she learned about Damien. He was most himself in the early hours, when the blue light dimmed to almost dark. He'd work at his table, surrounded by books and bones, trying equations that mixed medical science with ancient magic. Maya would sit nearby, sometimes reading, sometimes just watching him work. His hands moved with careful precision, a surgeon's training never quite forgotten. Occasionally, he'd mutter to himself, cursing in Latin or Old English when his experiments failed. "You don't have to stay," he said one night, not looking up from the bone he was inscribing with silver symbols. "I mean, you can't leave the tomb. But you don't have to sit here watching me fail repeatedly. It's boring." "I don't mind," Maya replied. "It's nice to be around someone who doesn't want anything from me." Damien's hand stilled. "Everyone wants something. That's the nature of living." "Then you're lucky I'm with someone who's barely living," Maya said. "You don't want me to smile on command. You don't need me to be anything except what I am. It's peaceful." Damien finally looked at her. His gray eyes searched her face. "What do you want, Maya?" She considered the question seriously. "Honestly, to feel useful. I was a waitress because I needed money, not because I loved it. I served people who didn't see me, took orders from people who didn't care about my name. Marcus was the first person in months who acted like I existed, and he only wanted the version of me he invented in his head. I don't know what I want, but I want it to matter." "You matter here," Damien said quietly. "You're the first living soul to willingly stay. That matters. But I'm not doing anything," Maya protested. "I'm just existing, taking up space in a dead girl's room, eating food I didn't earn." Damien set down the bone. He stood, moving to one of the massive bookcases. After a moment of searching, he pulled out a leather journal, its pages yellowed with age. "Come here." Maya rose and crossed to him. He opened the journal carefully, revealing pages covered in neat handwriting interspersed with detailed anatomical drawings. "These are my notes," he said. 70 years of research trying to understand death, trying to find the boundary where life ends and death begins, trying to discover if that boundary can be crossed back. He flipped through pages showing increasingly complex diagrams. "I've tried everything. Binding spells, preservation magic, temporal suspension. I can keep a body from decay indefinitely. I can bind a spirit to remain aware. But I can't make them alive. Not truly. The spark that makes someone a person rather than a puppet. I can't recreate that." Maya studied the drawings. They were beautiful in their precision, terrifying in their implications. "What if you're approaching it wrong?" she asked. "What?" Damien looked at her sharply. Maya traced one of the diagrams. "You're trying to bring death back to life. What if instead you need to bring life to death? You can preserve bodies. You can bind spirits. What if the answer isn't making dead things live, but giving dead things the qualities of life? Warmth, breath, growth, change. Not reanimation. Transformation." Damien stared at her, then at his notes. His expression shifted, cycling through disbelief, consideration, and something that looked dangerously like hope. "I never." He set the journal down with shaking hands. 70 years. 70 years, and I never thought to invert the approach. But how would? "If you can draw food from outside reality," Maya said slowly, working through the logic, "can you draw other things? Heat? Air? What if you could create a pocket where death behaves like life instead of making death become life?" Damien began pacing. His mind was clearly racing. The spirits scattered from his path, sensing his agitation. A contained environment, regulated, where the rules are different, like this tomb, but more. A space where the boundary between life and death is. He stopped abruptly. "Maya, you might be brilliant. I might be completely wrong," Maya said. "I don't know anything about magic." "No," Damien turned to her. His eyes were bright for the first time since she'd met him. Actually bright, not just reflecting the blue light. "You don't have the expertise, which means you're not trapped in established thinking. You see the problem fresh. That's invaluable." He grabbed her hands without thinking. his grip almost painful in his excitement. Will you help me? Actually help? Test theories, document results, be a second mind on this? I need someone who can think differently, someone alive who understands what life is. Maya looked down at his hands holding hers. His skin was cool, but not cold. His grip was desperate, but not demanding. This wasn't Marcus's possessive need. This was a drowning man finding something solid to hold on to. Yes, she said. I'll help. The next hours, days, or weeks blurred together as they worked. Damien pulled book after book from his shelves, explaining theories of necromancy, showing her the boundaries of what he could and couldn't do. Maya listened, learned, and asked questions that made him reconsider assumptions he'd held for decades. They started with small experiments. Damien created a sealed glass box and filled it with his death magic, the blue glow condensing until it was almost solid. Then Maya had him try to introduce life elements. Warmth from a candle flame, air from her own breath, water from a living spring he could reach through his magic. The first attempt failed. The candle went out instantly. The second attempt created something worse. The warmth and death magic reacted violently, shattering the glass. The third attempt, Maya suggested he try slower integration. Gentler balance. Damien worked for hours, his face tight with concentration. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cool air. Maya watched the magic swirl and separate, blue death energy and golden life force refusing to merge. Talk to it, she suggested. You command the dead. Can you ask the living? Damien gave her an incredulous look, but tried. He shifted from demanding control to requesting cooperation. The magic responded. Slowly, impossibly, the blue and gold began to swirl together, not merging but coexisting, creating patterns that looked like stained glass. It's working, Maya breathed. Damien didn't respond. He was completely focused, his hands moving in intricate patterns, conducting the magic like a symphony. The blue-gold light pulsed in rhythm with his movements. Then, from deep in the tomb, a sound, a child's laugh. Damien's concentration shattered. The magic dissipated instantly. He spun toward the sound, his face going pale. Eliza, he whispered. But the corridor was empty, just spirits drifting in their eternal routines. The Victorian child still building her block tower. The woman still dusting. No small girl with curls and a laugh like bells. You heard that, Damien said. Tell me you heard that. Maya's heart was racing. I heard it. A child laughing. Damien was already moving, striding toward his daughter's room. Maya followed, practically running to keep up. He threw open the door to Eliza's preserved bedroom. Everything was exactly as Maya had seen it before. The dusty bed, the old toys, the music box. Except, the music box was playing. Its tiny mechanism turned, plinking out a lullaby. The lid was open, revealing a small porcelain figure of a dancing girl that spun slowly to the music. I didn't wing it, Damien said hoarsely. It hasn't worked in 70 years. The mechanism is broken. Maya approached carefully. She peered inside the music box. The mechanism wasn't just working, it was glowing. Faint traces of the blue-gold magic they'd created swirled through the tiny gears. The magic we made, she said. It came here, to her things. Damien touched the music box with trembling fingers, when we balanced life and death. When you made me ask instead of command. Something reached out. Maya understood then. The magic hadn't just mixed energies. It had created a bridge. A call that someone, had answered. She might have heard us, Maya said gently. You're Eliza. If any part of her is still out there, still aware. She might have felt you trying something new, trying to bring life and death together instead of forcing them apart. Damien sank onto the small bed. For a moment he looked less like an ancient necromancer and more like a father who'd lost his child. 73 years, he said. I've been trying to command her back, demanding that death return what it took. But you suggested I ask. And she laughed. She played her music box. She's telling me she heard. Maya sat beside him. She didn't touch him, just sat close enough that he knew she was there. What if that's the answer? Not bringing her back to life, but creating a space where she can be both, where death doesn't mean gone, and life doesn't mean separate. Damien looked at her. In his eyes, Maya saw a grief so deep it had carved canyons through his soul. But she also saw, for the first time, something else. A crack in the armor. A possibility of healing. Will you keep helping me? He asked. Even if it takes years? Even if we fail? Maya thought about the tomb that was now her whole world, about the man beside her who'd been alone for longer than she'd been alive. About a little girl whose laugh still echoed somewhere between death and life. I'm not going anywhere, she said. We have nothing but time. Damien's hand found hers. He held it carefully, as if she might break, or as if he might. Thank you, he whispered, for seeing me, for seeing her, for not giving up when I had. The music box played on, its lullaby filling the room, and somewhere in the blue-gold light, Maya could have sworn she saw a small handprint on the dusty windowsill. Fresh, new, as if someone had pressed their palm against the glass from the other side. The tomb changed after that night. Subtle shifts that Maya noticed, but couldn't quite explain. The corridors seemed less maze-like. The blue light occasionally flickered with gold. The spirits still drifted through their routines, but sometimes they'd pause, turn their translucent heads, as if hearing something beyond their eternal loops. And Damien changed too. He smiled. Not often. Not easily. But when Maya made an observation that sparked a new theory, or when an experiment showed promise, something would shift in his severe features. A crack in the ice, a glimpse of who he'd been before grief, hardened him into something cold and untouchable. They fell into a pattern. Mornings. If the tomb had mornings, they'd eat together in the kitchen. Damien had forgotten most of his living preferences, so Maya taught him again. How to taste instead of just consume. How to notice texture and temperature. How to enjoy food rather than simply fueling a body that barely needed fuel anymore. You're relearning to be alive, she told him one morning over toast and tea that appeared from nowhere. He considered this, turning a piece of bread in his long fingers. I've been dead so long I forgot there was a difference. You're not dead, Maya corrected. You're between. There's a difference. Is there? Damien asked. I don't age. I don't need sleep or food. My heart beats only because I remember it should. What am I if not dead? You're talking to me, Maya pointed out. You're trying to save your daughter. You're hoping and working and caring. Dead things don't do that. Dead things don't feel. Damien was quiet for a long moment. Sometimes I wish I was fully dead. It would hurt less. But then you wouldn't be trying to bring Eliza back, Maya said gently, and she wouldn't have laughed for you. Pain means you're still capable of love. That's not death. That's the most alive thing there is. His gray eyes met hers, and Maya saw the war happening behind them, the desire to hope fighting against 70 years of disappointment. Afternoons were for experiments. They'd refined their technique, creating larger and more stable pockets of blended magic. Blue death energy and golden life force swirling together in contained spaces. Each successful merge felt like a small miracle. Each failure felt like a knife. Damien took the failures hard. He closed himself off, retreating into cold formality. My apologies for wasting your time. We'll try again tomorrow. At first, Maya let him have his distance, but after the third time he shut down, she called him on it. Stop that, she said. Stop what? Damien replied, his voice carefully neutral. Pretending you don't care when you care so much it's killing you. I'm already dead, he said flatly. You're really not, Maya stood, moving to face him directly. You're hurt. You're scared. You're desperate and grieving and so tired of hoping. But you're not dead. Dead people don't hurt like you do. Damien's carefully controlled expression cracked. His hands clenched into fists. You don't understand, he said, his voice low and dangerous. Every failure is another moment she stays gone. Every mistake is more time she's alone wherever she is. I've been trying for 70 years and I keep failing, and I can't. I can't. His voice broke. Maya did something instinctive, and possibly foolish. She hugged him. Damien froze. Every muscle in his body went rigid. Maya didn't let go. She held him the way she wished someone had held her when Marcus had first started following her. When the police had dismissed her fears, when she'd realized no one was coming to save her, she held him like he mattered. Slowly, so slowly, Damien's arms came up. He held her back, careful at first, then tighter. His face pressed into her shoulder. He didn't cry. Maya suspected he'd forgotten how, but his whole body shook with the force of grief, finally acknowledged. I'm so tired, he whispered against her hair. I'm so tired of being alone. I know, Maya said. Me too. They stood like that for a long time. Two broken people holding each other in a tomb between life and death, finding comfort in shared loneliness. When Damien finally pulled back, his eyes were suspiciously bright. I apologize, he said stiffly. That was inappropriate. It was human, Maya corrected. You're allowed to be human, even here, even now. Something in his expression shifted. He looked at her like she was a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. How are you real? He asked. How are you here in my tomb, trapped forever, and you're comforting me? I'm not trapped, Maya said. I chose this. I choose it every day. And you're not a burden, Damien. You're. She paused, searching for the right words. You're the first person in years who sees me. Really sees me. Not what I can do for them, not what they want me to be. Just me. That's worth staying for. Damien touched her face, gentle as breathing. His cool fingers traced her cheek. You're going to make me hope again, he said. And I don't know if I can survive having hope ripped away one more time. Then we won't let it get ripped away, Maya said. We'll figure this out together. Evenings, they'd sit in the library. Maya would read while Damien worked on his notes, compiling 70 years of research into organized theories. Sometimes he'd ask her opinion on something. Sometimes she'd read passages aloud from the books she'd found. They existed in comfortable silence, the kind that only came when two people didn't need to fill every moment with noise. One evening, Maya found a photo album tucked between medical journals. She opened it carefully, knowing what she'd find, but needing to see anyway. Eliza smiled out from fading photographs. A toddler covered in mud, a 5-year-old missing her front teeth, a 7-year-old in a white dress, her curls tamed with ribbons, her eyes bright with mischief. That was taken a week before she got sick, Damien said from behind her. She hated that dress, said it made her feel like a fancy doll. But her mother insisted for the portrait. Maya touched the photo gently. She looks like you. Around the eyes. Same intensity. Damien sat beside her. She was brilliant. Too clever for her own good. Always asking, why? 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 Never satisfied with simple answers. He smiled slightly. She would have loved you. You asked the same kind of questions. Maya felt her throat tighten. Tell me about her. Not the sick parts. The good parts. So Damien did. He told her about Eliza's obsession with beetles, how she'd collect them in jars and draw detailed pictures, labeling each species with made-up Latin names, about the time she'd decided to dig to the center of the earth and had made it 3 feet down before hitting a water pipe, about her imaginary country called Starfall, where all the citizens were talking cats who governed through poetry contests. He laughed telling these stories. Actually laughed. The sound was rusty, unpracticed, but genuine. Maya realized she was seeing him without his armor, vulnerable and human and beautiful in his brokenness. When he finished, his eyes were wet. I haven't talked about her like that in decades, he said. Everyone who knew her is dead. The memories lived only in my head, growing distorted with time. But telling you, it made her real again. She was real, Maya said firmly. She is real. And we're going to find a way to let her know you haven't forgotten. We're going to create a space where she can exist, even if it's different than life, even if it's something new. Do you really believe that? Damien asked. Or are you just being kind? I believe it, Maya said. I've seen the music box play. I've heard her laugh. She's out there somewhere, Damien, between. Just like you. Just like this tomb. We just have to build a bridge strong enough for her to cross. Damien took her hand, held it like a lifeline. If we fail, I don't know what I'll do. Then we don't fail, Maya said simply. Nights were the hardest. Maya would lie in Eliza's bed, staring at the memory window showing an eternal garden, and think about the life she'd left behind. Her apartment would be empty now. Her job definitely filled. Marcus probably still looked for her. Maybe filed a missing persons report. Maybe told everyone his version of events where he was the victim and she was cruel. She wondered if anyone missed her. If anyone even noticed she was gone. One night, she couldn't sleep. She wandered the corridors, letting the tomb's strange geography take her where it wanted. She found Damien on the roof. Or what passed for a roof. A flat stone expanse under a sky that showed real stars, not the painted ones in the throne room. He sat on the edge, legs dangling over nothing, staring up at constellations that had shifted since he'd last been among the living. Can't sleep? He asked without turning. How did you know it was me? The spirits don't have footsteps, and you're the only living person here. Maya sat beside him. The edge was dizzying, looking down into darkness that seemed bottomless. What happens if I fall? You won't, Damien said. The tomb protects its own. She believed him. She leaned back, looking up at the stars. Do you miss it? The living world? Every day, Damien admitted. Every single day. The sun, fresh air, walking through a market. Stupid things like rain on your face or dirt under your fingernails. Being alive it's everything. And I gave it up. For this. For death. For the chance to save one person. Was it worth it? Maya asked. Damien was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, if I succeed, yes. If I can bring her back, give her a chance to exist again even in this strange half-life, then losing everything will have meaning. But if I fail, if 73 years of trying amounts to nothing, then I've wasted a life trying to reclaim a death. And that's the most tragic thing I can imagine. Maya thought about her own choices. About choosing safety over freedom. About accepting a tomb as home, because the world outside had become unbearable. Are we very different? She asked. You chose isolation to chase an impossible goal. I chose isolation to escape an impossible situation. We're both hiding from the world. Maybe, Damien agreed. But you're still young. You still have time to change your mind, leave this place, return to life. I don't, Maya said quietly. The deal was forever. I can never leave. You could if you wanted, Damien said. I wouldn't stop you. The deal only holds if I enforce it. And I wouldn't trap you here against your will. Maya turned to look at him. You mean I could leave whenever I want? Damien met her eyes. His were soft in the starlight, vulnerable in a way she'd never seen. I mean I would break the deal before I'd keep you prisoner. You chose to come here when you were desperate. But you shouldn't have to stay if you don't want to. I want to stay, Maya said, not because I'm afraid of Marcus anymore. Not even because I'm trapped. I want to stay because you need help. Because Eliza deserves a chance. Because I haven't felt this useful, this seen, in years. Maybe ever. Damien's hand found hers between them. You're the most alive person I've ever met, and I've lived 2 lifetimes. Maya laughed softly. I'm sitting in a tomb with a necromancer, helping him bridge death and life. This is the weirdest my life has ever been. It's also the best. They sat together under impossible stars. 2 lonely people, finding something neither expected. Not quite friendship, not quite love, something between. Something new, something alive. The breakthrough came on what Maya thought might be a Tuesday, or possibly a Saturday. Time had become meaningless, measured not in days but in experiments completed, theories tested, failures survived. They'd been working on a larger containment field, trying to create a stable room-sized pocket where death and life could coexist. The theory was sound. The execution kept failing. Every time they got the magic balanced, something would destabilize it. The life force would overwhelm the death energy, or vice versa. They couldn't find the equilibrium point. It needs an anchor, Maya said, studying their latest failed attempt. The magic has nothing to hold on to. It just swirls around until it collapses. Damien rubbed his eyes, exhausted. An anchor implies something stable existing in both life and death simultaneously. Nothing exists in both states except... He stopped. Except what? Maya prompted. Except me, Damien said slowly. I'm between. I'm the stable point. His voice grew excited. I've been trying to create the magic externally. But what if I'm the container? What if I channel it through myself? That sounds dangerous, Maya said. It probably is, Damien agreed. But it might work. Before Maya could argue, he was already moving, clearing the center of the room. He stood in the middle of a circular pattern he'd drawn months ago, symbols in dead languages spiraling outward from center. Close your eyes, he told Maya. If this goes wrong, I don't want you to see. Absolutely not, Maya said firmly. If you're doing something dangerous, I'm watching. I'm not leaving you alone. Damien looked at her, and something in his expression made her breath catch. You've become very important to me, he said quietly. I need you to know that. If this fails, if I don't survive it, you need to leave this place. The magic will collapse without me to maintain it. The tomb will become just a tomb. You'll be able to walk out. Don't talk like that, Maya said. You're going to be fine. I hope so, Damien replied, because I've found something worth surviving for. He didn't elaborate. He didn't need to. Maya understood. He began the spell. His hands moved in intricate patterns, pulling death magic from the tomb itself. Blue light swirled around him, thick as fog, cold as winter. Maya could feel the temperature drop, her breath misted in the air. Then Damien did something different. He reached outside the tomb with his power, pulled life energy from the living world above. Golden light streamed down, warm and vital. It fought against the blue, tried to push it back. Damien stood between them, holding both forces with visible strain. "Come on," Maya whispered. "You can do this." Damien's face was tight with concentration. Sweat ran down his temples despite the cold. The blue and gold magic swirled around him faster. A vortex of conflicting energies. He was trying to pull them into himself, to become the meeting point. The magic resisted. Death and life weren't meant to coexist. They were opposites, eternal enemies, fundamental forces that defined reality through their separation. Bringing them together was like trying to make water and fire become one thing. "Damien, it's not working," Maya called out. "Stop before you hurt yourself." "I can do this," he gritted out. "I have to. I'm already between. I'm already both. I just need to." The magic slammed into him. All of it at once. Damien screamed. His body arched backward. Blue and gold light poured into him through every pore, warring for dominance inside his flesh. He was being torn apart from the inside. Maya ran forward without thinking. She grabbed his hand, and the magic flowed into her too. For one eternal second, Maya existed in two states. She felt death, cold and quiet, and final. The absolute stillness of nothing. The peace of ending. And she felt life, burning and chaotic and infinite. The violent beauty of existing. The terror and joy of being. The two forces met in her, and instead of destroying her, they balanced. Because she was fully alive. Because Damien was between. Because together they provided both anchor points the magic needed. The blue-gold light stabilized. It stopped fighting. It began to weave together. Death and life creating something new. Something that was neither and both. The light expanded outward from them, filling the room. Where it touched, things changed. The stone walls grew warm. Moss appeared in the cracks, green and living. The spirits passing through suddenly paused. They looked around, awareness flickering in their translucent eyes. For the first time in their eternal loops, they saw the present. The light kept expanding. Out through the doorway, down the corridors, up through the tomb's impossible geometry, touching every room, every surface, every shadow. Maya felt Eliza before she saw her, a presence rushing toward them through the transformed tomb like a swimmer breaking surface. The music box in her room began to play, but this time the music was real, clear. Not tinny and mechanical, but full and rich like an orchestra. Then she was there, not fully corporeal, not quite a spirit, something between. A little girl made of blue-gold light, her curls bouncing as she ran toward them. "Daddy." The word echoed through the tomb. Not spoken. Felt. "Daddy, I heard you. I came back." Damien collapsed to his knees. His hand released Maya's as he reached for his daughter. "Eliza," he choked out. "Eliza, my little star." The child made of light threw her arms around him. She couldn't quite touch him, couldn't quite be held. But the intention was there. The love was there. "Daddy, you did it. You made a place where I can be. Not alive, but not gone. Somewhere between. It's beautiful." Maya backed away, giving them space. Her body was shaking with the after-effects of channeling that much magic. She felt hollowed out and overfull at the same time. But she couldn't stop smiling. It worked. Against every law of nature and magic, it worked. Damien was crying. Actually crying. Tears streaming down his face as he tried to hold his daughter's not quite solid form. "I missed you," he said. "Every day. Every moment. I'm so sorry I couldn't save you." "You did save me," Eliza said. Her voice was like wind chimes, like bells, like memories of laughter. "You made this place where death isn't the end, where I can think and feel and be. That's better than life, Daddy, that's magic." Around them, the tomb continued to transform. Flowers bloomed from cracks in the stone. The air grew warm and cool simultaneously. The spirits were waking up, awareness returning to eyes that had been blank for decades. Some of them smiled. Some cried. All of them looked around in wonder at a world they could finally see again. "You helped." Eliza turned to Maya. Her eyes were her father's, gray and bright and ancient and young all at once. "You anchored the life, while Daddy anchored the death. You're the reason I could come back." "I just held his hand," Maya said. "He did all the work." "You did more than that," Eliza said. "You reminded him how to be alive, how to hope, how to let someone in. He's been alone so long he forgot, but you remembered for him." The little girl made of light stepped closer to Maya. "Can I hug you too?" Maya knelt down. "Of course you can." Eliza's embrace was like being hugged by warm wind and cool moonlight. Insubstantial, but undeniably there. Maya felt tears on her own cheeks. "You're real," she whispered. "You're actually real." "I'm something," Eliza agreed happily. "Maybe not alive, but definitely not gone. That's enough for me." Damien stood, and for the first time since Maya had met him, he looked at peace. The hardness had melted from his features. The grief was still there. It would always be there. But it was balanced now by joy. "Thank you," he said to Maya, "for believing it was possible, for being the life anchor, for everything." Maya wiped her eyes. "So what happens now?" "Now," Eliza said, spinning in a circle, her form flickering like candlelight, "we figure out how this place works. Because I felt others. Lots of others. People stuck between like me. People who might be able to come here. To exist in the in-between. We could help them," Damien said, understanding dawning. "This tomb. It could become a haven, a place for those who aren't ready to fully die, but can't return to life. A third option. A kingdom between," Maya said softly. "Exactly what you always wanted to build." Damien looked around at his transformed tomb, at the moss growing on walls, at the spirits regaining awareness, at his daughter made of light, at the woman who'd stumbled in desperate and stayed by choice. "I built this place in grief," he said, "as a prison for my sorrow. But you both, you've helped me transform it into something else, something beautiful. Can I stay?" Maya asked. "Now that you have Eliza back, do you still need me here?" Both Damien and Eliza turned to her with identical expressions of alarm. "You have to stay," Eliza said. "The magic needs both anchors, life and death. You're the life part. Without you, this all collapses. And," Damien added quietly, "I want you to stay. Not because the magic needs you. Because I do." Because this strange family we've become. It feels right. Maya felt warmth bloom in her chest. Not magic. Something better. Something human. "Then I'm staying," she said. "Not because I'm trapped. Not because I'm running. Because this is where I choose to be." Eliza clapped her hands, the sound like distant thunder. "Then let's get to work. There's a whole kingdom to build. And I have 70 years of opinions to share about how Daddy's been decorating. Far too much doom and gloom. We need color, life, joy." "You're exactly like your mother," Damien said. But he was smiling. Impossible and wonderful, and absolutely right. The three of them stood in the transformed tomb. Father made of death, daughter made of light, and the living woman who'd bridged them. A family forged in impossible magic, a kingdom built between life and death, and for the first time in 73 years, the tomb felt like home. The kingdom between grew quickly. Once the first bridge was stable, others found their way to it. Spirits who'd been trapped in their death loops suddenly woke to awareness. Some chose to move on, finally ready to let go. Others chose to stay, curious about this new existence where they could think and feel and be without the burden of living or the silence of death. Eliza appointed herself as the official greeter. She'd flutter because her light form didn't quite walk so much as drift with purpose to each newly aware spirit and explain where they were. Most were confused at first, then grateful, then fascinated. The tomb expanded to accommodate them. Rooms appeared that hadn't existed before. A great hall where spirits could gather. A garden that grew things that were alive and dead simultaneously. Flowers that bloomed in impossible colors. A library that contained books from every era, including some that hadn't been written yet, but existed in the dreams of those between. Maya found her purpose in the organization. She cataloged the spirits, learned their stories, helped them understand their new existence. She was the life anchor, the connection to the world above, the reminder that death wasn't an ending, but a transformation. Damien worked on refining the magic, making the transitions smoother, creating spaces for specific needs, a quiet room for those who needed solitude, a bright space for children, a workshop for those who'd been craftspeople in life and wanted to continue creating. He was still a king, but no longer a lonely one. One morning, Maya was in the garden when Damien found her. His expression was troubled. "We have a problem," he said. "It's been 2 months since you came here. 2 months since you ran from Marcus." Maya's stomach dropped. She'd almost forgotten about the outside world, almost forgotten there were people up there who might wonder where she'd gone. "What about him?" "He's looking for you," Damien said. "I can sense him. He's been to the cemetery 3 times this week, walking between graves, calling your name. He knows you came here. He knows you never left." "How does he know?" Maya asked. "Because someone saw you," Damien replied. "A homeless man who camps near the cemetery. He told Marcus he saw a woman matching your description run into the graveyard and disappear into the old mausoleum. Now Marcus is convinced you're here. He's been trying to get the door open." "Can he?" Maya's voice was small. "No," Damien said firmly. "Not without my permission. The tomb protects its own. He could hammer at that door for 100 years and never break through. But what? "But he's causing problems," Damien said. "He's filed missing persons reports, brought police to the cemetery. They searched the mausoleum, of course, but they just saw an empty crypt. No signs of entry, no evidence you were ever here. But Marcus isn't giving up. He's becoming unstable." "He's telling people you're being held prisoner, that someone kidnapped you, that he's going to save you. He thinks he's the hero," Maya said bitterly. "Of course he does. In his version of reality, I'm a damsel who needs rescuing, not a woman who chose to leave." Damien's expression was carefully neutral. "Did you choose, or did you run out of options?" Maya thought about that. "Both," she admitted. "I chose the only option I had. But now I have other options. The magic is stable. Eliza's here. The kingdom is growing. I could leave if I wanted." "You could," Damien confirmed. "The original deal is void. I told you that. The question is, do you want to?" "I don't know," Maya said honestly. "Up there I'd still have to deal with Marcus, with police who don't believe me, with a world that didn't protect me. But down here, I'm hiding. I'm letting him control my life by making me too afraid to live it." Damien sat beside her on the garden bench. A real bench now, grown from living wood and dead stone merged together. "What would you do if fear wasn't a factor?" "I'd face him," Maya said immediately. "I'd tell him exactly what he is. A stalker, an obsessive, someone who confused kindness for consent and interest for obligation. I'd make sure everyone knew the truth, not his version where he's the victim. Then do that, Damien said. I can protect you. Not forever, Maya said. I can't ask you to stand guard over me for the rest of my life. You're not asking, Damien replied. I'm offering. Maya, you gave me my daughter back. You helped me build a kingdom. You reminded me what it meant to be alive. If you want to face your stalker, I will be there. And he will regret ever making you feel unsafe. There was something dangerous in his tone, something that reminded Maya that Damien was a necromancer king, someone who commanded death itself. He could end Marcus with a thought. That's not the answer, Maya said gently. I don't want him dead. I just want him to leave me alone. To understand that no means no, that I'm not some prize to be won through persistence. Then we'll make him understand, Damien said, but on your terms, when you're ready, not when he decides to escalate. Maya took his hand. The gesture had become natural over the months, his coolness against her warmth, life and death in balance. What if I'm never ready? Then you stay here forever, and we build a beautiful life in the in-between, Damien said. Either way, you're safe. Either way, you're choosing. That's what matters. Eliza appeared, flickering into existence beside them. She'd learned to control her manifestation, appearing and disappearing at will throughout the kingdom. Are we talking about the Stalker man? She asked. Because I have opinions. Of course you do, Damien said fondly. You always do. Eliza sat between them, her light form warm, but not quite solid. I think Maya should go up there and tell him off. But not alone. We should go with her. All of us. Show him that she has a family now. People who love and protect her. We can't all go to the surface, Damien said. The magic is too fragile. Taking the anchors away might collapse the kingdom. What if we didn't go to the surface? Eliza suggested. What if we brought him down here? Her eyes gleamed with mischief that reminded Maya of the drawings in Eliza's room. The little girl who'd loved beetles and imaginary countries still lived in this light-made child. Show him what real power looks like. That's terrifying, Maya said. That's the point, Eliza replied. He's been terrifying you. Turnabout is fair play. Plus, Daddy could do the voice. The scary king voice. I don't have a scary king voice, Damien protested. You absolutely do, Maya and Eliza said in unison, then laughed. Damien looked between them. Are you two ganging up on me? We're a family, Eliza said. That's what families do. Maya felt something crack open in her chest. Family. She'd lost hers years ago. Her parents dead. Her brother gone. She'd been alone so long she'd forgotten what it felt like to belong to people who chose you. And here in a tomb between life and death, she'd found it again. Okay, she said. Let's do it. Let's bring Marcus here. Let him see exactly what he's been trying to force his way into. Show him that I'm not hiding. I'm home. Damien's eyes held a predatory gleam. When? Tomorrow night, Maya said. He'll be at the cemetery. He's been coming every night at the same time, like clockwork. We'll let him in. Damien stood, already planning. We'll prepare the throne room. Make it impressive, intimidating. We'll show him power he can't understand or control. We'll make it clear that you are under protection he cannot breach. And we'll give him a choice, Maya added. Leave me alone and live his life, or keep pursuing me and face consequences he doesn't want to imagine. Eliza clapped her hands. This is going to be fun. It's not supposed to be fun, Damien said. But he was smiling slightly. It's supposed to be effective. It can be both, Eliza said. Now come on. We have a throne room to decorate. She flickered away, off to terrorize the spirits with her decorating ideas. Damien and Maya remained in the garden. Are you sure about this? He asked. Confronting him will be hard. It will bring up everything you've been trying to escape. I'm not escaping anymore, Maya said. I'm choosing. There's a difference. And I need him to understand that my choice is to stay here. With you. With Eliza. With this impossible kingdom we've built. That my absence from his life isn't something to overcome. It's a boundary he needs to respect. Damien cupped her face in his cool hands. You've become so strong. I'm not sure I was weak before, Maya said. I was surviving. But yes, I'm stronger now. Because I'm not alone anymore. Because I have people who see me as more than what I can do for them. Because I matter here. You matter everywhere, Damien said fiercely. You just finally found a place that recognizes it. They spent the rest of the day preparing. The throne room transformed under Damien's direction and Eliza's enthusiastic suggestions. The ceiling rose higher, impossibly high, showing a void of stars. The throne grew larger, more imposing, carved with symbols of death and power. Spirits were positioned throughout the room, their half-solid forms creating an army of witnesses. The blue-gold light was dimmed, allowing shadows to pool in corners where eyes gleamed. It looked like every gothic nightmare and fairy tale warning combined. It looked like the domain of a king who commanded death itself. Perfect, Maya said, surveying their work. If this doesn't scare him into leaving me alone, nothing will. Eliza had one more suggestion. She flickered to Maya's side. You should look powerful too. Not scared. Not small. You're the life anchor. You're important here. You're chosen. Show him that. Maya looked down at her diner uniform. Still the same clothes she'd worn running through the rain months ago. Eliza was right. She needed to look like she belonged here. Like she'd chosen this. Damien seemed to read her thoughts. Come with me, he said. He led her to a room she'd never seen before. Inside, a wardrobe stood open, filled with clothes from every era. These belonged to those who came before, he explained. Those who stayed in the kingdom. They left their old lives behind, including their choose something that makes you feel strong. Maya sorted through the options. Finally, she found a dress. Simple but elegant. Deep blue that matched the death magic. Gold embroidery at the collar and cuffs that matched the life force. It fit perfectly, as if made for her. When she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. She looked regal. Powerful, like someone who'd chosen her fate, rather than had it chosen for her. Beautiful, Damien said from behind her. And terrifying. The best combination. Maya turned to him. Thank you. For all of this. For protection. For power. For giving me a choice when no one else would. Thank you for staying, Damien replied. For teaching me that death doesn't have to mean the end of living. For being the bridge. For being you. They stood close together in the clothing room. Damien's hand rose to her face, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. Maya leaned into the touch. Tomorrow, we face him, Damien said. We show him that you're beyond his reach, that you found something he can never give you. Safety, purpose, family. Tomorrow, Maya agreed. But tonight, let's just be grateful for what we've built, for who we've become, for this impossible kingdom between life and death. They returned to the throne room where Eliza was teaching spirits a coordinated routine that involved them appearing and disappearing in waves. It was dramatic, and slightly ridiculous, and absolutely perfect. Maya laughed, the sound echoing through the vast space. Damien smiled, his expression soft, and in that moment, the kingdom between felt not just like a refuge, but like home. Marcus arrived at the cemetery exactly at midnight, just as they knew he would. Maya watched from inside the tomb as he approached the mausoleum, his flashlight cutting through the dark. He looked terrible. Unshaven, his clothes rumpled, his movements jerky with obsessive energy. "Maya," he called out, his voice echoing between the tombstones. "I know you're in there. I know you're hiding. Please, just come out. We can talk about this." "Let him in," Maya said. Damien nodded. He reached out with his power, and the chains on the door fell away. The heavy marble door swung open, revealing absolute darkness beyond. No blue-gold light. No hint of what waited inside. Just shadow. Marcus hesitated at the threshold. "Maya?" His voice was smaller now. Uncertain. "Come in, Marcus," Maya's voice echoed from the depths. "If you want to talk, come inside." He entered. The door slammed shut behind him. The darkness lifted gradually, revealing the throne room in all its terrible glory, the vast ceiling showing void and stars, the throne carved from black stone, the army of spirits lining the walls, their eyes gleaming in the shadows. And on the throne, Damien. He'd allowed his power to manifest fully. Death magic swirled around him like a cloak. His eyes glowed faintly silver. He looked ancient and powerful, and absolutely inhuman. Beside the throne stood Maya, in her blue and gold dress, her chin high, her expression calm. At Damien's feet sat Eliza, her light form bright and impossible. Marcus stumbled backward. "What? What is this?" "This is where I live now," Maya said calmly. "This is what you've been trying to force your way into. Welcome to the kingdom between life and death." "You need help," Marcus said, his voice rising. "You've been kidnapped. Brainwashed. These things aren't real. They're hallucinations. I'm here to save you." "I don't need saving," Maya said. "I need you to leave me alone." Damien spoke, and his voice resonated with power. "Maya Thorne is under my protection. She came to this place seeking sanctuary from you, from your harassment, from your obsession. She has been granted permanent refuge here. You have no claim to her, no right to pursue her, no authority to demand her return." "Who the hell are you?" Marcus demanded, but his bravado was cracking. Fear crept into his eyes. "I am King Damien Ashcroft," Damien replied. "Necromancer, master of death. And I am telling you that if you continue to pursue Maya, if you ever try to contact her again, if you so much as think about forcing your way into her life, you will learn exactly what a necromancer can do to the living. Those are not empty threats." Marcus looked at Maya. "This is insane. You can't actually believe. Come home with me. We'll get you help." "Will, this is my home," Maya interrupted. "I chose it. Not because I was forced. Not because I'm confused. I chose it because here, I'm safe. Here, I'm valued. Here, people respect my boundaries instead of trampling them. But I care about you," Marcus said desperately. "I was trying to protect you. You were stalking me," Maya said flatly. "Following me, leaving things at my apartment, taking pictures of me without permission, showing up at my work, waiting by my car, making me afraid to exist in my own life. That's not caring. That's obsession." "I was just persistent," Marcus argued. "I knew if I could just make you understand." "Make me understand what?" Maya demanded. "That you refused to accept no for an answer? That you decided you knew what I wanted better than I did? That you would force your presence into my life until I gave in from exhaustion or fear?" The spirits along the walls began to move, coordinated, just as Eliza had taught them. They appeared and disappeared in waves, creating an effect like breathing shadows. Like the room itself was alive and watching. Marcus spun around, his flashlight beam catching translucent faces that smiled with too many teeth. "Stop it," he shouted. "Stop trying to scare me. This isn't real." "It's very real," Eliza said, flickering to stand directly in front of Marcus. Her light form brightened until he had to shield his eyes. "And you're very unwelcome." My daddy can do terrible things to people who threaten his family. Would you like to see? No, Damien said gently. That's not necessary, little star. He's going to leave now. He's going to understand that Maya has made her choice, and he's going to respect it. Aren't you, Marcus? Marcus backed toward the door. His eyes were wild. This is a trick. Hallucinations. Gas leak or something. You can't. Maya moved down the steps from the throne. She walked across the vast room with measured grace, every step deliberate. When she reached Marcus, she looked him directly in the eyes. I am going to say this once, she said. Her voice was steady, clear, powerful. Leave me alone. Stop looking for me. Stop telling people I need rescuing. Stop constructing narratives where you're the hero and I'm the confused victim. I left your life by choice. I stay gone by choice. If you truly cared about me the way you claim, you would respect my decision. But you don't care about me. You care about the version of me you invented, the one who smiles when you want, who appreciates your attention, who needs you. That person doesn't exist. I don't need you. I don't want you in my life. And if you try to force your way back in, there will be consequences. Marcus's face cycled through emotions. Denial, anger, fear, desperation. Finally, something that might have been understanding. This is really what you want? He asked. To stay here with this? Yes, Maya said. This is exactly what I want. Then you're insane, Marcus said. His fear was curdling into rage. I tried to help you. I tried to be patient. But you're damaged. Broken. No wonder you ended up here with monsters. You deserve each other. Damien was off his throne in an instant. He moved faster than human, covering the distance in a blink. He didn't touch Marcus, but he loomed over him, death magic swirling like smoke. Speak to her like that again, he said quietly, and you will learn what broken truly means. Marcus fled. He scrambled for the door, threw himself through it, and ran into the cemetery beyond. They heard his footsteps pounding away, heard his car start, heard tires squeal as he sped into the night. The door swung closed on its own. Damien's power settled. The throne room's dramatic lighting normalized. Eliza flickered back to her normal brightness. The spirits resumed their usual drifting. Maya stood in the center of the room, trembling. Not with fear. With release. Years of tension flowing out of her like water from a broken dam. Did I do okay? She asked. You were magnificent, Damien said. He crossed to her, took her hands. You were strong and clear and absolutely certain. He'll never bother you again. How do you know? Maya asked. Because he's a coward, Eliza said bluntly. Bullies always are. He only felt powerful when you were afraid. Now that you're not, now that you have protection, he has nothing. He'll tell himself you were crazy and move on. Construct a story where he's better off. But he'll leave you alone. Maya sagged slightly. Damien caught her, supported her weight. It's done, he said gently. You faced him. You set your boundary. You're free now. Free, Maya repeated. The word felt strange, huge. She'd been running from Marcus for so long, letting his obsession dictate her choices. Now it was over. I'm free. She started laughing. Relief and joy and hysteria mixed together. I'm free. She spun in a circle, her dress flaring out. I'm free and I chose to stay here anyway. I chose you. I chose this family. I chose the kingdom between. That's the best kind of freedom, Damien said. Choice. Agency. Knowing you could leave, but deciding to stay. Maya threw her arms around him, held him tight. Damien froze for only a moment before returning the embrace, solid and safe and real. Thank you, she whispered into his shoulder. for protection, for power, for believing me when I said I was in danger, for giving me a place to be safe while I found my strength. Thank you for teaching me to hope again. Damien replied, for showing me that death doesn't have to mean the end, for being alive in a way that reminded me what living meant. Eliza joined the hug, her warm light wrapping around both of them. This is nice, she declared. Family hugs should happen more often. Agreed, Maya said. Group hug rule. At least once a week. I don't make rules, Damien protested weakly. You're the king, Eliza pointed out. You absolutely make rules. Then I decree, Damien said with mock solemnity, that family hugs are mandatory weekly. All in favor? Maya and Eliza both made affirmative sounds. The spirits along the walls flickered in what might have been applause. Motion carried, Damien said, and smiled. A real smile, warm and genuine and alive. They broke apart eventually. Maya felt lighter than she had in years. The weight of fear gone. The burden of being pursued lifted. She was free, and she'd chosen exactly where she wanted to be. So what now? She asked. Now, Eliza said, we continue building the kingdom. There are more spirits arriving every day. More people finding the bridge between life and death. We have work to do. And, Damien added, I'd like to teach you necromancy, if you're interested. Maya stared at him. Really? You're the life anchor, he explained. You have natural ability to work with life force. If you learn to balance that with death magic the way I do, you could become powerful in your own right, not dependent on my protection. Able to defend yourself and others. I'd like that. Maya said, teaching me your magic. Working together as equals, partners, Damien agreed. In magic and in building this kingdom. Maybe in other things too, if you'd like. He looked uncertain, vulnerable in a way that made Maya's heart ache. I'd like that very much, Maya said softly. Eliza made a sound of delight. Finally. I've been waiting for you two to figure this out for weeks. We've been focused on other things, Damien said defensively. You've been dancing around each other, Eliza corrected. But that's okay. You needed time. Now you have forever. Forever, Maya repeated. It should have sounded terrifying. An eternity in a tomb. But it didn't. It sounded like possibility, like safety, like home. They returned to the throne room's normal configuration. Damien showed Maya the basics of death magic, how to sense it, how to pull it, how to shape it without letting it consume her. She showed him how she worked with life force, how she'd been doing it instinctively all along, without realizing. Together, they created small pockets of balanced magic, blue and gold swirling together, life and death in harmony. This is what the kingdom runs on, Damien explained. This balance. As long as we maintain it, as long as both anchors hold, this place can exist, grow, become more. And we have help now, Maya said, looking at the spirits who'd regained awareness. They can learn to work the magic too, create their own pockets of balance, expand the kingdom further. Exactly, Damien said. We're building something unprecedented, a realm that exists outside normal rules, where death isn't an ending and life isn't the only option, where people can choose to exist in the between. It's beautiful, Maya said, and strange and impossible and absolutely real. Just like us. Just like us, Damien agreed. He took her hand, and together they walked through their kingdom. Past the throne room, through the library, into the garden where living and dead plants grew together. Spirits greeted them as they passed, waving or bowing or simply smiling. Children played with blocks that existed and didn't exist simultaneously. Artists created works from shadow and light. Musicians played instruments that made sounds only those between could hear. This is home, Maya thought. This impossible place between life and death. This kingdom, built on grief and hope and magic, that shouldn't work, but does. This family cobbled together from a necromancer, a ghost child, and a runaway waitress. She couldn't imagine being anywhere else. 3 months after Marcus's confrontation, the kingdom had grown beyond anything Maya could have imagined. What had started as a single tomb, with a handful of spirits, had expanded into a vast realm. Corridors branched into territories, each one maintained by spirits who'd chosen their own purposes. The artist's quarter bloomed with impossible colors. The library had become a maze of knowledge from every era. The garden sprawled across acres that couldn't physically fit beneath the cemetery but did anyway, because the between played by different rules. Maya had changed too. She'd learned to manipulate death magic under Damien's patient instruction, though it never came as naturally to her as life force. She could create small pockets of balance on her own now, could sense when the kingdom's equilibrium shifted, could help maintain the structure that kept their realm stable. More importantly, she'd learned to be happy. Actually, genuinely happy. Not the performative happiness she'd worn like armor in the living world, but real contentment that came from being seen, valued, and chosen every single day. She worked alongside Damien managing the kingdom. They'd fallen into an easy partnership, dividing responsibilities, consulting each other on decisions, building something together. Sometimes their hands would brush while working. Sometimes they'd sit close enough to share warmth and coolness. Sometimes Damien would look at her like she was the most remarkable thing in any realm. Neither had named what was growing between them. Neither needed to. It was there in every shared smile, every comfortable silence, every moment of working in perfect synchronization. Eliza, of course, had opinions about their unspoken relationship. "You should kiss," she announced one day while they were cataloging new arrivals. "Eliza," Damien said, his voice strained. "That's inappropriate." "Why?" Eliza asked. "You like her. She likes you. You stare at each other when you think the other isn't looking. Just kiss already." Maya laughed despite her embarrassment. "She has a point." "I absolutely do not stare," Damien protested. "You absolutely do," Maya and Eliza said simultaneously. Damien's pale complexion couldn't hide his flush. "Fine. Perhaps I've noticed that Maya is remarkable. And perhaps I've considered. That is." He trailed off helplessly. Eliza giggled, her light flickering with mirth. "You're cute when you're flustered, Daddy. I thought you couldn't be embarrassed anymore." "Apparently I was wrong," Damien muttered. Maya took pity on him. "How about we table the kissing discussion and focus on the actual problem?" "What problem?" Eliza asked. "We have a problem?" "We have an opportunity," Damien corrected, clearly grateful for the subject change. "The kingdom has grown large enough that we need to consider formal structure. Rules. Governance. We can't just improvise forever." "We've been doing fine with improvisation," Maya said. "Have we?" Damien pulled out a list. Last week, the artists flooded the musicians' quarter with paint that exists only in memory. The week before, the children discovered they could phase through walls and started appearing in private spaces uninvited. Yesterday, 3 spirits got into an argument about whether emotions from life continue in death and nearly destabilized the eastern wing. "Oh," Maya said. "Right. Problems. We need rules," Damien said, "and we need to tell people about this place, about what we've built. There are more people out there stuck between life and death, trapped in loops, or fading away, who don't know they have another option. We need to reach them. How do we tell dead people about the kingdom? Maya asked. Damien smiled slightly. I have an idea, but it's going to require us to do something we haven't done since the kingdom was established. What's that? We need to go public. Hold an open gate. Invite anyone between life and death to visit and see what we've built. A festival, Eliza said excitedly. A celebration. We can show everyone what's possible. We can help so many people. It's ambitious, Damien said. And potentially dangerous. Opening the gates wide means we can't control who enters. We might get spirits who don't want peace, who bring chaos or pain. But if we can help even a fraction of those stuck between, it's worth the risk. Maya considered the implications. We'd need to prepare, create spaces for visitors, establish clear rules, make sure our anchors are strong enough to handle an influx of energy. And, Damien added quietly, you'd need to be ready to face questions about your choice to stay here. People will wonder why a living human would choose a realm of death. Let them wonder, Maya said firmly. I know why I'm here. I don't need to justify my choices to strangers. Damien's expression softened. Have I mentioned you're remarkable? Once or twice, Maya replied. They spent the next weeks preparing. Damien crafted formal invitations, messages sent through death magic to every spirit aware enough to receive them. The kingdom between life and death exists. If you are trapped between, if you are fading, if you seek purpose or peace, or simply a place to exist, come to the Festival of Balance. See what we have built. Choose if you wish to stay. The invitations rippled outward, through the realm of death like stones thrown in still water. Eliza coordinated the current residents, organizing them into welcoming committees, tour guides, and peacekeepers. She threw herself into planning with enthusiasm that reminded Maya why she'd been such a handful in life. Maya focused on stabilizing the anchors. She practiced pulling life force and death magic in larger quantities, weaving them together, creating a foundation strong enough to support hundreds or thousands of visitors without collapsing. It was exhausting work. Each night she fell into bed drained. Each morning she woke to Damien's concerned face. You're pushing too hard, he said one morning, bringing her tea that appeared from nowhere. You need to rest. I need to be strong enough, Maya countered. If this fails, if the kingdom collapses because I'm not powerful enough, it won't fail, Damien interrupted. We'll succeed or adjust, but I won't let you burn yourself out trying to be perfect. You're already enough. His words settled something anxious in her chest. She took the tea, sipped it, let the warmth ground her. Thank you, she said, for believing I'm enough, for never demanding I be more or less than what I am. Thank you for existing, Damien replied simply, for changing everything. They worked together in comfortable silence, and Maya realized she'd never felt more at peace. The day of the festival arrived. Though day was a relative term in the kingdom, time didn't work normally here. But they'd chosen a moment, prepared a space, and opened the gates wide. Spirits poured in, more than Maya had imagined. Hundreds. Then thousands. They came from every era, every culture, every walk of life and death. Some were recently dead, still confused about their transition. Others were ancient, their forms barely more than impressions. Children held the hands of parents who died decades apart. Soldiers from forgotten wars walked beside healers who'd fought different battles. Artists, and thieves, and teachers, and murderers. All of them between, all of them seeking. The festival grounds, conjured specifically for this event, sprawled across impossible geography. Pavilions demonstrated different aspects of the kingdom. In one, artists showed how to create with shadow and light. In another, musicians performed songs that existed only in memory. Gardens bloomed with flowers from dreams. Libraries offered knowledge from every age, and in the center, the throne room stood open. Damien sat on his throne, regal and powerful, with Eliza at his side and Maya standing beside them. A family, a kingdom, a choice. Spirits approached in waves, curious and cautious. Damien explained the kingdom's purpose. Maya demonstrated the life-death balance. Eliza charmed everyone with her enthusiasm. Many spirits asked the same question: why? Why create this place? What do you gain? Damien's answer never wavered. I gained my daughter back. I gained a family. I gained purpose beyond grief. This kingdom exists because death doesn't have to mean the end, and life doesn't have to mean separation. We offer a third option: existence in the between. By the end of the festival, over 300 spirits had chosen to stay. They petitioned to join the kingdom, to find purpose in the between, to exist somewhere that honored both what they'd lost and what they still could be. Damien accepted them all, though he warned it would be hard work. The kingdom required maintenance. Everyone contributed. Everyone had value. Everyone mattered. As the last visitors departed and the gates closed, exhaustion hit Maya like a wave. She swayed, and Damien caught her instantly. I've got you, he said. Always. Maya leaned into his support. We did it. We actually did it. We did, Damien agreed. And now, the real work begins. Integrating 300 new residents, establishing territories, creating structure from chaos. It's going to be magnificent and terrible and absolutely worth it. Eliza flickered beside them. You're both amazing. This kingdom is amazing. I'm so proud of what we've built. She paused, then added with exaggerated innocence, now kiss already. Eliza, Damien started. But Maya laughed. She was exhausted and exhilarated and surrounded by family in a kingdom they'd built from impossible magic. She turned in Damien's arms, looked up at his startled face, and made a choice. She kissed him. It wasn't dramatic or passionate. It was gentle, tentative. The brush of her warm lips against his cool ones. Life and death meeting, choosing each other. When they pulled apart, Damien looked stunned. Was that? Yes, Maya said. That was me choosing you. Not because I'm trapped. Not because you saved me. Because I want to. Because you see me. Because we've built something beautiful together. Because I. She hesitated. I love you, she finished. Both of you. This strange, impossible family. This kingdom between life and death. All of it. Damien's expression cracked open, vulnerable and joyful and terrified all at once. I love you too, he said. I didn't think I could feel this again. Didn't think I deserved it. But you taught me that death doesn't end love. It just changes it. Transforms it into something new. Finally, Eliza crowed. I thought I'd have to stage an intervention. They laughed, the three of them, in the throne room of their impossible kingdom. Around them, 300 new residents were settling into their spaces, finding purposes, choosing to exist in the between. And above them, somewhere in the cemetery, the world continued without knowing that beneath their feet, a kingdom thrived. A place where death wasn't the end, where life wasn't the only option, where love could bloom in the space between. Home. The kingdom's expansion brought unexpected challenges. 300 new residents meant 300 different needs, perspectives, and conflicts. Maya found herself mediating disputes she'd never imagined. A Victorian-era spirit insisted on strict moral codes that clashed with a 1970s artist's free-spirited approach. Children from different eras played together, but sometimes their games crossed into territories where older spirits wanted quiet. And everyone had opinions about how the kingdom should be run. "We need a council," Maya suggested one evening as she and Damien reviewed the day's conflicts. "Some kind of representative body. You can't make every decision alone." "I've been making decisions alone for 73 years, Damien pointed out. "True," Maya said. "And how lonely was that?" Damien paused. "Point taken. They established a council of 7, representatives chosen by different groups within the kingdom. An artist, a scholar, a child, a recent arrival, an ancient spirit, a peacekeeper, and Maya herself, representing the living anchor. Damien remained king, but he consulted the council on major decisions. The first council meeting was chaos. Everyone had ideas, some practical, some impossible, some well-intentioned but unworkable. Maya listened to them argue about territory boundaries, resource allocation, and whether emotions from life should be allowed to influence Death Realm interactions. Eventually, she stood. Everyone fell silent. "We're not trying to recreate life," she said firmly, "and we're not accepting death as final. We're building something new. That means compromise. That means accepting that the Victorian and the hippie both have valid perspectives, that children need play and elders need peace, that we're all between, and that's what unites us." The council members looked at each other. Slowly, they began to nod. "You're good at this," Damien said later, in the privacy of the throne room. "At leading, at bringing people together." "I learned from watching you," Maya replied. "You command death, but you do it by understanding what each spirit needs." I just applied that to the living side of things. Together they refined the kingdom's structure. Territory divisions, quiet zones and active areas, times for communal gathering and times for solitude. A system where everyone contributed based on their abilities and everyone received based on their needs. It wasn't perfect. Conflicts still arose. But they had a framework now. A way to address problems without everything collapsing. Eliza thrived in the expanded kingdom. She'd taken on the role of liaison to the children, both living memories and those who died young. She organized games that taught them how to exist in the between, how to manifest and fade, how to move between territories, how to find joy in existence that was neither alive nor dead. Maya watched her sometimes, this girl made of light, who'd been dead for 70 years, but had somehow retained the curiosity and enthusiasm of a 7-year-old. "How do you do it?" Maya asked one day. "Stay so hopeful? So joyful? When you've been gone so long," Eliza's light flickered thoughtfully. "I think it's because I never got to grow up the first time. I didn't get to become cynical or tired or bitter. I existed in the moment. And then I didn't exist at all, and now I exist again, but different. So I choose to keep existing in the moment, to find joy where I can, because what's the alternative? Being miserable for eternity? That seems like a waste. You're wiser than any 7-year-old should be," Maya said. "I've had 70 years to think," Eliza pointed out. "That helps." One day, a new arrival caused a stir in the kingdom. She appeared at the gates, a spirit barely holding form. Ancient. Powerful. Aware in a way that suggested she'd been between for a very long time without fading. Damien received her in the throne room, Maya and Eliza at his sides. The spirit solidified into the form of an elderly woman, her eyes sharp, despite her translucent state. "You're the Necromancer King," she said. "The one who's building a realm between. I had to see it for myself." "You're welcome here," Damien replied, "if you come in peace." "I come seeking understanding," the woman said. "I am Madame Thorn. I've been between for 200 years. I've watched kingdoms rise and fall in the living world while I existed in the cracks. I've never seen anything like what you've built. How is it stable? The anchors, Maya explained. Life and death in balance. I'm the life force. Damien is the death force. Together we create the equilibrium. Madame Thorne studied Maya with unsettling intensity. You're alive. Fully alive. Yet you choose to exist here? I do, Maya said firmly. Why? Because it's home. Because I'm valued here. Because I can help people here in ways I couldn't in the living world. Madame Thorne smiled, an expression both warm and calculating. Fascinating. You understand you're wasting your life? You could return to the surface. Live freely. Experience all the things the living take for granted. I experienced those things, Maya said. I experienced being invisible, being harassed, being dismissed. Here I matter. My life has purpose, even if it's spent underground with the dead. Especially because it's spent here, Maya corrected. The woman's expression shifted to something like respect. You found something rare. Purpose. Belonging. Most people search their entire lives for that and never find it. You found it in a tomb. The irony is exquisite. She turned to Damien. I wish to offer my services. I was a teacher in life, a philosopher in death. I can help train those who are new to the between, help them understand their existence, if you'll have me. Damien glanced at Maya, who nodded slightly. We welcome your expertise, he said. The kingdom grows daily. We can use experienced guides. Madame Thorne joined the council, bringing perspective from centuries of observation. She taught classes on existence, on the nature of being between, on how to maintain identity when flesh and time no longer anchored you. Under her guidance, the newest arrivals integrated faster, understood their transformations better, found peace more quickly. But she also asked questions, uncomfortable ones. One evening, she approached Maya in the garden. How long do you plan to stay here? She asked without preamble. Forever, Maya replied. I made that choice. And when your living friends wonder what happened to you? When your family. I don't have family, Maya interrupted. They're gone. And I didn't have friends, just co-workers who knew my name and customers who forgot it the moment I left their table. No one in the living world misses me. That's profoundly sad, Madame Thorne said gently. And also profoundly freeing. You've built a new life from nothing, created family from impossible circumstances, found love in the last place anyone would look. Maya flushed. I don't. Your feelings for the king are obvious, Madame Thorne said. As are his for you. I'm not criticizing, I'm observing. You've done what most people only dream of. You found your place. But what? Have you considered what happens when you die? Maya went still. She hadn't. Not really. When you die, Madame Thorne continued, you'll become like us. Between. No longer the life anchor. Will the kingdom survive without you? We'd find another anchor, Maya said, but uncertainty crept into her voice. Would you? Madame Thorne asked. Life anchors aren't common. Most living people flee from death. You're extraordinary in your willingness to embrace it. When you transition to death, the balance shifts. Unless Damien finds another living person willing to stay forever in a tomb. Unless you're careful about succession planning, the kingdom you've built might collapse the moment you die. Maya had never considered this. She'd been so focused on the present, on building and maintaining and helping, that she hadn't thought about the future. What do I do? She asked. Plan, Madame Thorne said. Find potential successors. Living people who might be willing to take your place someday. Or find a way to extend your life long enough to establish the kingdom so firmly that it can survive without you. How would I extend my life? Death magic can preserve, Madame Thorne said. Damien keeps bodies from decay. Could he keep your body from aging? Keep you alive indefinitely? That sounds like becoming undead, Maya said. Like what he is. Would that be so terrible? Madame Thorne asked. You love him. He loves you. If you became like him, truly between, you could exist together for centuries. Build the kingdom without the clock ticking on your mortality. I need to think about this, Maya said. Of course, Madame Thorne said. Take your time. But not too much time. Mortality waits for no one. Maya carried the conversation to Damien that night. They sat in his study, surrounded by books and bones and the comfortable clutter of his research. Can you do it? She asked. Make me like you? Extend my life indefinitely? Damien was quiet for a long moment. Yes, he said finally. I could. I've researched the process for decades. I could preserve you between life and death. You'd stop aging, stop dying. You'd become like me. But Maya, there's no going back. Once you cross that threshold, you can never be fully alive again. Would I be dead? Not dead, Damien said. Between. Like I am. Aware. Feeling. Existing. But not alive in the way you are now. No heartbeat unless you remember to make it beat. No need for food or sleep except as comfort. No connection to the living world except through magic. You'd be giving up your humanity. For what? Maya asked. For immortality? For you? For the kingdom? All of those, Damien said. But only if it's what you want. Not what you think I want. Not what the kingdom needs. What you genuinely want for yourself. Maya thought about Madame Thorne's words. About succession planning. About the kingdom collapsing when she died. About centuries of existing beside Damien and Eliza. I don't know, she admitted. I love being here. I love what we've built. But giving up my humanity feels permanent. It is permanent, Damien agreed. Which is why you shouldn't rush the decision. Live, Maya. Exist as you are. We'll find a solution that doesn't require you to give up what makes you yourself. But what if the kingdom will survive or adapt? Damien interrupted. We've built something strong. If it can't survive your natural lifespan, then it wasn't strong enough. I won't ask you to sacrifice your humanity for a kingdom. You built your entire existence around trying to save Eliza, Maya pointed out. That was grief and desperation, Damien said. This is different. This is asking someone I love to give up a fundamental part of themselves. I won't do it. Not even for the kingdom. Not even for forever. Something warm bloomed in Maya's chest. You really mean that? I really do, Damien said. He took her hands. Maya, you've given me more than I ever hoped for. You brought my daughter back. You helped me build a kingdom. You taught me how to be alive again even while being dead. I won't repay that by stealing your life. We'll find another way. Together? Maya asked. Together, Damien confirmed. Always together. The solution came from an unexpected source. Eliza. She'd been unusually quiet for several days, flickering in and out of visibility even during council meetings. Maya finally found her in the music room, sitting beside the piano that played memories instead of notes. What's wrong, little star? Maya asked, borrowing Damien's nickname for her. Eliza's light dimmed. I heard what Madame Thorne said, about you dying someday, about the kingdom maybe collapsing. I don't want to lose you. You won't lose me, Maya said gently. When I die, I'll become like you. Between. We'll still be together. But you'll be different, Eliza said. You won't be the life anchor anymore. The kingdom might fall apart. And even if it doesn't, you won't be Maya anymore. Not the same Maya. You'll be She struggled for words. "You'll be dead, Maya. Not alive, Maya. And I like alive, Maya. I don't want her to go away." Maya pulled Eliza close, or as close as she could to a girl made of light. The embrace was more intention than contact, but somehow that made it more real. "I don't want to go away either," Maya whispered. "But everyone dies eventually. That's the deal with being alive." "What if it didn't have to be?" Eliza asked. "What if there was a way to keep you alive forever without making you undead? What if we could find another anchor, someone to share the life force with you? Then, when you get old, they take over, and you could retire from being the anchor, but still be alive." "That's actually brilliant," Maya said. "But where would we find another living person willing to do this?" "We find someone who needs us as much as we need them," Eliza said. "Like you needed us. Someone running from something. Someone who needs safety. Someone who'd choose the between because the living world failed them. Like I did," Maya realized. "We find another me." The idea took root. They began paying attention to the living world in new ways. Damien extended his senses to the cemetery above, listening for desperate prayers, for begging, for the kind of broken pleading that had brought Maya to his door. Months passed. The kingdom continued to thrive. Maya learned to balance her roles as council member, life anchor, and partner to Damien. Their relationship had settled into something comfortable and profound. They worked together during the day, maintained the kingdom's balance, mediated disputes. At night, they'd sit together in quiet companionship, sometimes talking, sometimes just existing in the same space. He taught her more advanced death magic. She taught him to laugh without guilt. They built a life together in a kingdom of death. Eliza remained the heart of their small family. She'd organized the children into a thriving community, teaching them joy and purpose. She'd started a tradition of nightly storytelling, where spirits from different eras would share their lives. She'd created celebration days for those who wanted to mark their death anniversaries, not with mourning, but with recognition of transformation. And she kept searching for signs of someone who needed them. The signal came on a Tuesday, or what Maya thought was probably a Tuesday. Time remained fluid in the between. Damien sensed it first. His head snapped up during a council meeting, his eyes going distant. Someone's at the gate. Someone living. Someone terrified. They found her collapsed against the mausoleum door. A woman, maybe 19. Her lips split, her eye swelling shut, blood on her shirt that might or might not be hers. She was gasping out broken prayers. "Please. Please let me in. Please hide me. He'll kill me this time. I know he will. Please, anywhere. Anywhere but out here. Please." Damien opened the door. The woman fell through, landing hard on the tomb's stone floor. She scrambled backward, eyes wild, searching for threats. "Where? What?" "You're safe," Maya said, kneeling slowly, carefully, the way you'd approach a wounded animal. "You're inside. He can't reach you here." "Who can't reach you?" The woman's eyes focused on Maya. Recognized another living human. "My boyfriend. Ex-boyfriend. I tried to leave him. Her voice cracked. He said if he couldn't have me, no one could. I believed him, so I ran. I'm Jenna," Maya said gently. "I ran too, from someone who wouldn't let me go. I ended up here, in this tomb. These people saved me. They can save you too, if you want." The woman looked around, took in the impossible corridor stretching behind Maya, the blue gold light, the throne room visible in the distance. "What is this place?" "It's hard to explain," Maya said. "But basically, it's a kingdom between life and death, run by a necromancer king who offers sanctuary to those who need it. The catch is, if you accept his protection, you can never leave. You stay here forever." The woman laughed. It came out slightly hysterical, A tomb where I'm stuck forever sounds better than 10 more minutes out there with him. I accept. Whatever the deal is. Whatever the price. I accept. Damien appeared behind Maya, and the woman flinched, but she didn't run. She just stared up at him with desperate hope in her eyes. You'll be safe here, Damien said. No one can harm you within these walls. But Maya is right. This is permanent. You need to understand what you're agreeing to before. I understand, the woman interrupted. I understand that out there, I'm already dead. I'm just waiting for it to happen. Here, at least I'll be safe while I'm waiting, and maybe that's enough. Damien's expression softened. He'd heard similar words from Maya months ago. Welcome, then, to the kingdom between. They gave the woman, Sarah, Eliza's old room after carefully asking Eliza if she minded. Eliza had been delighted. Another person who chose us, she'd exclaimed. Another person who needed safety. This is perfect. Sarah adapted quickly. She was wary at first, expecting the safety to be an illusion, expecting cruelty hidden under kindness. But days passed, and no one demanded anything from her. No one expected her to be anything but herself. Slowly, she began to believe she was really safe. Maya worked with her, teaching her about the kingdom, about the balance, about what it meant to exist in the between. And she asked carefully if Sarah would be interested in learning to be a life anchor. Why me? Sarah asked. I'm nobody. I'm just a girl who ran away. So was I, Maya said, but I learned that being the life anchor isn't about who you were. It's about who you're willing to become. It's about choosing to stay. Choosing to help maintain the balance. Choosing to be part of something bigger than yourself. Sarah considered this. What would it involve? Training, Maya said. Learning to sense life force. Learning to pull it and shape it. Learning to work with Damien's death magic to create balance. It would take years. But eventually, you could take over as the primary anchor. And I could. Could what? Sarah asked. Live, Maya said simply. Actually live. Age naturally. Die naturally. Without worrying that my death will collapse the kingdom. Because you'd be here to maintain it. I'd like that, Sarah said slowly. Having purpose. Being important to something. I've never been important before. You're important now, Maya said. The fact that you survived, that you're here, that you're choosing to stay. That's important. Sarah became Maya's apprentice. They worked together daily. Sarah learning to sense the threads of life force that Maya drew from the world above. It was harder for Sarah than it had been for Maya. She'd been beaten down for so long that connecting to life felt foreign. But she persisted. And gradually, she improved. Damien helped, teaching both of them more advanced techniques. The three of them would work in synchronization, weaving life and death together in increasingly complex patterns, strengthening the kingdom's foundation, preparing for the eventual transition. Eliza adopted Sarah as an honorary sister, teaching her how to find joy again, how to laugh without flinching, how to trust that kindness was real and not a trap. Madame Thorne approved of the arrangement. Well done, she told Maya. You've ensured succession. The kingdom will survive beyond you now. Beyond all of us, Maya corrected. That's the point. We're building something that doesn't depend on any one person, something that can outlast us. That's the most beautiful kind of creation, Madame Thorne said. The kind that doesn't need its creator to continue. You've built a true kingdom. 1 year after Sarah's arrival, they held a ceremony. A formal recognition of Sarah as the apprentice life anchor. A promise that when Maya was ready to step back, Sarah would take her place. The kingdom gathered in the throne room, hundreds of spirits who'd found home in the between. Damien stood on his throne, regal in his power. Maya stood beside him, the life anchor. Sarah knelt before them, ready to take her vows, and Eliza, made of light and love, presided over the ceremony with solemn joy. "Do you, Sarah Chen, choose to serve as life anchor?" Eliza asked. "To maintain the balance between life and death? To give your living energy to this kingdom in exchange for sanctuary, purpose, and belonging?" "I do," Sarah said. Her voice was clear, certain. "Will you train faithfully? Will you learn to work in harmony with the death anchor? Will you eventually assume the role of primary life anchor, allowing Maya to transition to whatever life she chooses?" "I will," Sarah said. "Then, by the power of this kingdom between," Eliza declared, "I recognize you as apprentice life anchor. May you find purpose in service. May you find safety in these walls. May you find family among the between." The kingdom erupted in celebration. Spirits flickered and danced. Music played from nowhere and everywhere. The blue-gold light pulsed in rhythm with hundreds of hearts that beat only in memory. Maya felt something release in her chest, the weight of responsibility she'd been carrying alone. The knowledge that the kingdom's survival didn't rest solely on her anymore. She could breathe. She could plan for a future that included aging, dying, and the kingdom continuing without her. Damien found her after the ceremony. "You did it," he said. "Ensured the kingdom's future." "We did it," Maya corrected. "All of us. Together." Damien pulled her close. "I'm so grateful," he said quietly. "For you. For what you've built. For teaching me that letting go doesn't mean losing everything. Sometimes it means gaining something better." "Like what?" Maya asked. "Like trust," Damien said. "Like family. Like knowing that what we've created is strong enough to survive beyond us. That's not loss. That's legacy." They stood together in their kingdom, surrounded by spirits celebrating, Eliza dancing with Sarah, Madame Thorne observing with approval, and Maya realized she'd found something she hadn't even known she was searching for. Not just safety, not just purpose, but the knowledge that what she'd built would outlast her. That her choice to run into a tomb one desperate night had created ripples that would continue long after she was gone. That her life, which had felt so small and invisible in the living world, had become significant in the between. "We should expand," she said suddenly. Damien looked at her. "What?" "The kingdom," Maya said. "We should expand it, not just wait for desperate people to find us. We should actively reach out, create safe houses in other places, build a network of between realms, give more people the choice we've been given." "That's ambitious," Damien said, "and complicated, and probably impossible." "So was everything else we've done," Maya pointed out. "But we did it anyway." Damien smiled. "You're remarkable, you know that?" "You tell me frequently," Maya said. "But I appreciate the reminder. Let's build something bigger. Together." "Together," Damien agreed, "for as long as we have." 5 years after Maya first stumbled into the tomb, the kingdom between had become something extraordinary. What started as one mausoleum had expanded into a network of safe havens across multiple locations. Damien had discovered that anywhere with enough death energy, anywhere the living rarely went, could become a gateway. Old hospitals, abandoned prisons, forgotten graveyards. Each location housed a smaller kingdom, all connected to the central realm beneath the original cemetery. Each had its own caretakers, both living anchors and death anchors working in pairs to maintain balance. Maya had trained 12 living anchors over those 5 years. People like her and Sarah. People who'd been running from abuse, stalking, violence. Situations where the living world had failed them. She'd taught them to sense life force, to weave it with death magic, to create pockets of safety for those who needed them. Sarah had become the primary life anchor for the original kingdom 3 years ago. Maya had stepped back gradually, training others, expanding the network, no longer shouldered with maintaining the original realm alone. She still lived in the tomb, still worked alongside Damien, but now she had time. Time to actually live, even in a kingdom of death. She'd learned to paint from the artists, learned music from spirits who'd been composers, learned a dozen languages from those who'd died across centuries. She'd grown and changed in ways she never could have in the living world. Damien had changed too. The grief that had defined him for 73 years had transformed into something gentler. He still mourned his daughter's death, still carried the weight of that loss, but it no longer consumed him. Eliza's presence, her joy, her continued existence in the between, had healed something fundamental in him. He smiled easily now, laughed often, led the kingdom not from isolated authority but from genuine connection with his people, and he and Maya had built something neither quite named, but both understood. Love, yes, but more than that. Partnership. A bond forged in impossible magic and sustained through years of working in synchronization. They existed in harmony, life and death choosing each other daily. Eliza had grown too, in the way spirits could grow. Not older, she'd remain 7 forever, but deeper, wiser. She'd become the kingdom's heart. The reminder that death didn't mean the end of growth, change, or possibility. On what might have been a Saturday, Maya sat in the garden with Damien and Eliza. The garden had become vast over the years, acres of impossible plants that existed in multiple states simultaneously, flowers that bloomed and wilted in the same moment, trees that grew up and down, grass that was both green with life and brown with decay. It was beautiful and strange and absolutely perfect. Madame Thorne found them there. She manifested beside the bench, her ancient spirit form more solid than usual. "I have news," she said. "The council has been discussing expansion limits. Some spirits believe we're growing too quickly, that we risk destabilizing the entire network. Others argue we should grow faster, reach more people who need us." "What do you think?" Damien asked. "I think," Madame Thorne said carefully, "that you've built something remarkable, a genuine alternative to the binary of life and death. But I also think you need to consider the long game. What happens in 50 years? 100? When all the current anchors are gone? We train new ones," Maya said. "We've established succession protocols. Every realm has apprentices. The knowledge won't be lost. But the vision might be," Madame Thorne said. "The passion, the understanding of why this matters. You three," she gestured at Maya, Damien, and Eliza, "built this from lived experience, from desperate need. Future generations won't have that same urgency. They might let the kingdoms stagnate. Or worse, they might corrupt them. Use them for power instead of sanctuary." "Then we write it down," Eliza said. "We document everything. Why we built this, what it means, how it should be maintained. We create a foundation that outlasts us. A philosophy, not just a structure." "You really have grown up," Madame Thorne said with approval. "Even while staying 7, I've had good teachers," Eliza said, looking at her father and Maya. They spent the next months creating documentation. Not just practical guides, though those too, but philosophical texts, explanations of the kingdom's purpose, personal testimonies from those who'd found sanctuary, stories of transformation, healing, and choice. They gathered accounts from every spirit who'd been healed by the kingdom, every living person who'd found safety. They documented the failures too, the spirits who'd chosen to move on, the living people who'd eventually left, deciding they were ready to face the world again. The experiments that hadn't worked, the conflicts that had torn communities apart before they'd learned better governance. It was honest and comprehensive and utterly vulnerable. "We're giving future generations everything," Damien said, looking at the compiled volumes. our successes and failures, our hopes and fears, our complete truth. That's the only way to ensure they understand, Maya said. If we pretend we were perfect, they'll think they need to be perfect too. If we show them we struggled and adapted and grew, they'll know they can too. The documentation was stored in every realm, accessible to all who sought it. And beside it, they placed something more personal. A memorial wall. Names of everyone who'd contributed to building the kingdoms, living and dead, recent and ancient. Every person who'd chosen to be part of something bigger than themselves. Maya Thorne's name was there, with a note, Life Anchor. Teacher, reminder that choosing death doesn't mean giving up on life. Damien Ashcroft, Death Anchor. King, proof that love survives beyond death. Eliza Ashcroft, Heart of the Kingdom. Eternal child who taught us that transformation doesn't require growing up. Sarah Chen, Life Anchor. Example of how victims can become builders. Madame Thorne, Philosopher. Bridge between past and future. And hundreds more, thousands, as the years went on. One evening, Maya stood before the memorial wall in the original kingdom. She was 35 now, nearly twice the age she'd been when she first ran into the tomb. She had gray streaks in her hair, from stress and joy in equal measure. Wrinkles at the corners of her eyes from smiling. She was aging, and it was beautiful. Damien found her there. Thinking about mortality? He asked gently. Thinking about legacy, Maya corrected. I'm going to die someday. Maybe soon, maybe in 50 years. But when I do, this will remain. She gestured at the wall, at the kingdom beyond. Everything we built, everyone we helped. That continues. Does it bother you? Damien asked. Knowing you'll die while I continue? Not the way I thought it would, Maya admitted. I used to think death was an ending, a tragedy, but now I know it's just a transformation. I'll become between. Like you. Like Eliza. We'll still be together. Just differently. You could become like me sooner, Damien offered. The preservation magic. I could transform you now. Keep you from aging. We'd have eternity together. Maya had considered this offer countless times over the years. Damien asked periodically, always making it clear it was her choice. She'd always declined. I want to age, she said. I want to experience a full human life. I missed so much, running from Marcus, hiding in fear. Now I have safety and time. I want to use it. I want to get old, naturally. Die naturally. And then, when I'm between like you, we'll have our eternity. I can wait, Damien said. I've waited 73 years alone. I can wait another 50, knowing you'll eventually join me. They stood together before the memorial wall, life and death in partnership, planning for a future that included both separation and reunion. Eliza appeared beside them. Are you two being morbid again? She asked. Realistic, Maya corrected. Planning, Damien added. Same thing, Eliza said, but that's okay. Planning is good. Speaking of which, she turned to Maya. When are you going to visit the surface? The surface, Maya repeated. The living world, Eliza clarified. You haven't been up there in 5 years. Don't you want to see it? Feel sunshine? Walk under real sky instead of remembered ones? I don't need to, Maya said. Everything I need is here. But maybe you want to, Eliza pressed. Just to visit, to remember what you're choosing to leave behind. To make sure you're still choosing it actively, not just from habit. She had a point. Maya had gotten so comfortable in the kingdom that she'd stopped questioning her choice to stay. Maybe it was time to test it. Okay, she said. I'll go up. Just for a day. Damien looked alarmed. Alone? With me, he said quickly. If you go, I go. We'll go together. They surfaced at dawn. The mausoleum door opened onto a cemetery, transformed by 5 years. The graves were better maintained now. Someone had planted flowers. The old fence had been repaired. The world had continued without them. Maya stepped out onto grass wet with dew. The sun was rising, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold she'd forgotten existed. The air was fresh and cold and alive with birdsong. It's beautiful, she whispered. Damien stood beside her in the shadow of the mausoleum. He couldn't venture far from it, couldn't walk freely in sunlight, but he could stand at the threshold. Watch Maya experience the living world. Is it how you remembered? He asked. Better, Maya said. And also. Also? Less, she admitted. It's beautiful, but it's empty. There's no one here I know. No one who sees me. Down below I have family. Purpose. Community. Up here I'm just another person watching the sunrise. You could have this again, Damien said quietly. If you wanted. You could leave the kingdom. Live in the sun. Find other people. Build a different life. I know, Maya said. That's what makes staying a choice. She turned to face him. I choose you. I choose Eliza. I choose the kingdom and everyone in it. Not because I'm trapped. Not because I'm afraid. But because that's where I belong. Damien's expression cracked open with emotion. You're sure? Completely sure, Maya said. She took his hand, pulled him back toward the tomb. Let's go home. They descended together, leaving the sunrise behind. When they reached the throne room, Eliza was waiting with news. 3 new people are at the gates, she announced. 2 living, 1 spirit. They're asking for sanctuary. All 3 are running from situations where the living world failed them. We have room? Maya asked. We always have room, Damien replied. That's the point. They went to meet the new arrivals together. A family, a king of death, a living woman choosing the between, and a child made of light. They welcomed the newcomers, explained the kingdom, offered choice and safety and belonging. And the kingdom continued to grow. Years passed. Maya trained more anchors. Damien refined the magic. Eliza organized celebrations and education programs. Sarah expanded the network to new locations. Madame Thorne documented everything. The memorial wall filled with names. When Maya turned 50, they held a celebration. The entire kingdom gathered to honor her 20 years of service, 20 years of being the original life anchor, 20 years of building sanctuary for those who needed it. She stood before hundreds of spirits and dozens of living anchors, overwhelmed by what they'd created. I was just running, she said, just trying to survive. I stumbled into a tomb and begged for help. I had no idea it would become this. That's how all great things start, Madame Thorne said. With one desperate person making one impossible choice. Your choice to stay, to help, to build. It rippled outward, and now thousands of people have sanctuary. Because you chose the between. Maya looked at Damien, who smiled at her with pride and love. At Eliza, who flickered with joy. At Sarah and all the other anchors who'd followed her path. At the spirits who'd found peace. This is my legacy, she thought. Not the life I lost, but the kingdom I helped build. Years continued to pass. Maya's hair went completely gray. Her joints ached on cold days. She moved slower, tired faster, but her mind remained sharp. She'd lived a full life in the kingdom between. Loved and was loved. Built something that would outlast her. Made choices that mattered. On her 70th birthday, she gathered Damien and Eliza in the garden. I'm ready, she said. Ready for what? Eliza asked, though her light flickered with understanding. Ready to transition, Maya said. To become between like you. I've lived a full human life. Longer than I would have if I'd stayed in the living world, probably. And now I want eternity with you both. Are you certain? Damien asked. His voice was careful, controlled, but his eyes shone with emotion. I'm certain, Maya said. I've had 70 years to think about it. 20 in the kingdom, 50 before. I know what I'm choosing. I'm choosing forever with the people I love. The transformation took place at midnight, under impossible stars. Maya lay in Eliza's old room, surrounded by everyone she'd taught, everyone she'd helped, everyone who'd become family. Damien performed the magic he'd perfected over decades, the spell that would preserve her between life and death. Not alive, not dead, but something new. It didn't hurt. It felt like falling asleep and waking up simultaneously. Maya felt her heartbeat slow, then stop. Felt her breath cease, felt her living warmth fade, and then felt something new rushing in. The blue-gold light of the between. Life and death merged. She opened her eyes. The room looked different, sharper somehow, more real. She could see threads of magic connecting everything, could sense the kingdom's structure, could feel every spirit, every anchor, every pocket of balance throughout the network. She sat up, looked at her hands. They were translucent now, made of light, like Eliza, but older light, mature light, the light of someone who'd lived fully before choosing transformation. Maya, Damien breathed. How do you feel? Free, Maya said. She stood, tested her new form. She could solidify or fade at will, could move through walls or walk on solid ground, could exist in multiple places simultaneously if she concentrated. I'm really between now. We all are, Eliza said, taking her hand. One big between family. The kingdom celebrated Maya's transformation. Not as a death, but as a choice. As a woman, completing her journey from desperate survival to eternal purpose. And in the years that followed, Maya and Damien ruled the kingdom together. Not as king and consort, but as equals. Partners in maintaining the balance. In welcoming new souls. In building sanctuary for those between life and death. Eliza remained their heart. Sarah took over training new anchors. Madame Thorne documented the continued growth. And the memorial wall grew longer, recording everyone who chose the between. The kingdom between life and death thrived, a testament to one desperate night when a waitress begged for sanctuary and a lonely king said yes. A reminder that death doesn't have to mean the end, that life doesn't have to mean separation, that love can bloom anywhere, even in a tomb, especially in a tomb, where the between becomes home.